Welcome to the Astrology Show with your host, Kelly Fox. Each week, Kelly will give you access to the current transits that are a valuable tool which provide astrological information to help unlock the potential each of us has through our sun sign. Understanding the current planetary influences each week can help steer us in the right direction to make better informed choices. Sometimes, events in your life may seem completely random, but there is a pattern to the order of these events, one set in motion in part by you, and in part by the planets and stars in the sky and their influence on your life here on Earth. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in your week ahead, if you're going to get that promotion, move to a new city, or fall in love, tune in to the Astrology Show for guidance. It can help you anticipate problems before they occur, give you tools to cope with changes, and help you look forward to the wonderful days ahead. Kelly Fox is a professional astrologer and internet pioneer who launched astrology.com, one of the first and most successful astrology websites. Today, her passion lies with her new site, theastrologer.com, where she brings a modern-day approach to an ancient wisdom. Please join Kelly each week to learn more about how the planets can align for you.
Hi there, and welcome to the Astrology Show. I am your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox. And on tonight's show, I'm going to be talking about the planets this month. And I'm talking about July. If you can already believe we are in July. I know I say that a lot, but time feels like it has sped up. I'm not sure if that's just me or what, but we are already into July. And on tonight's show, I'm going to talk about what we can expect, and I'm going to go through and give each sign their monthly forecast for July. Now, the big news of July is eclipse. We are moving into eclipse season. So on the 12th, we have a very, very intense solar eclipse. And the reason why it's intense is because the involvement of Pluto. And then on July 27th, we have a lunar eclipse in Aquarius. And that's going to be intense also because it involves Mars and Uranus, and not in a good way. Also this month we have Mercury turning retrograde. Yes, it's that time again. Mercury turning retrograde, and it will be turning retrograde in Leo, a sign it doesn't really like too much. And we also have love planet Venus moving into Virgo. And we have Jupiter, planet of luck and good fortune, finally turning direct. And that's going to happen July 10th. And this is really good news for all you Scorpios out there and fellow water signs, Cancer and Pisces. So that's the overview of what we can expect. It's going to be a really, really big month from an astrological point of view. And I am going to go through each sign's forecast. But first, I'm going to give you an overview. I just gave you a quick summary, but I'm going to give you an overview of what we can be expecting this month. So, you know, with this month, because of eclipses, the Mercury retrograde, Jupiter finally turning direct, July has some key lessons, and that's about compassion. So we've got some really good transits this first week of July. We have something called a grand water trine. So that's really good for learning not just about intuition and creativity, but really having compassion for other people. We also have this first week of July, Chiron. Chiron is, it's not an asteroid and it's not a planet. It really has its own sort of classification, and astrologers, we call Chiron a planetoid. And Chiron, the mythology around Chiron is that it's the wounded healer. And we have our Chiron return when we turn 50, which means that something comes about when we finally can embrace our wound or our karma this lifetime, and then we in turn can help others with our own life experiences. And so that's Chiron, and Chiron will be turning retrograde actually on July 4th, and it'll turn retrograde in Aries. It will be retrograde for about 4 months, and so what's going to be important here is learning from the past will become really important to help us all heal. We all have karma. We were all born into this lifetime with the lessons of karma and the lessons that we learn from our own experiences, which is what Chiron is about. And so when it turns retrograde in Aries, it's all about understanding our own wound, our own karma, and how to heal any sort of trauma that we've had this lifetime, and how we can learn from the past to help us work towards the future. So that's Chiron turning retrograde this week. And also, as I just mentioned, the Sun and Jupiter and Neptune forming a grand water trine this week, which is really, really great news for the water signs, and that's Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. So this is all about compassion and intuition and understanding and looking from a situation from a higher point of view, and listen to our instincts. That's the lesson of this week. Then we have love planet Venus. It's going to be moving into Virgo on July 9th. And I'm just looking to see how long it's going to be in Virgo. So July 9th through, through August 6th. Love planet Venus will be in Virgo for that time period. And you might recall with many of the shows, I always say that the planets have their favorite signs and their least favorite signs. And Venus does not really like Virgo that much. It's quite uncomfortable when it is coupled up with Virgo. So there could be some, especially around relationships when Venus is in Virgo, it's all about perfection. And we all know that there's no such thing as perfection. Many of us can strive towards it. It doesn't mean that it is obtainable. So when it's in Virgo, when Venus is in Virgo, it's all about seeking perfection and really looking for the imperfections. This is Venus in Virgo, looking for the imperfections and wanting everything to be just so or just right or just perfect. When really what we should be doing is, good. Sometimes good enough is good enough. Settling for what's there, and really, I think also when Venus is in Virgo for this time period, that it's for most of July, it should be about having gratitude and really counting our blessings for what we have. So just be mindful this month when Venus is in Virgo and all the other heavy planetary influences going on, which I'll cover in more detail in just a moment. But when Venus is in Virgo, it's like this is a really good time to have gratitude. Gratitude, count our many blessings for what we have in our life, those we love, and also on a material plane, because Venus is the ruler of love and money. And then, of course, the solar eclipse, the Cancer new moon solar eclipse is on the 12th. It is a supermoon and a partial solar eclipse that opposes powerful Pluto. So I think the key message, and I said I'll just talk about that in more detail in a minute, the key message of this particular solar eclipse is be very careful about starting something new at this time. And many of us, especially the cardinal signs, and that's Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, might be forced to take a different path or look in a new direction, and one that might not have been anticipated. And then we have of course, the lunar eclipse in Aquarius, and it's going to be hooking up with Mars and then forming a tense, tough square with Uranus, the planet of the unexpected. Now, just a bit more about the solar eclipse. So the solar eclipse is occurring on Thursday, July 12th. It's going to be very intense, especially if you have any cardinal planets around 20 degrees, and that's Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. And if you were born sort of towards the end of one of those signs, this eclipse will be affecting you a lot more intensely. And so what's going to happen with this solar eclipse on July 12th is that the moon will pass over the sun, and it is a partial solar eclipse, and will be exactly opposite Pluto in Capricorn. So on one side, from our perspective here on Earth, on one side you have the sun and moon together, and the opposite side of that is Pluto in Capricorn. And Pluto is a planet of change and transformation. It's also about power and control. And also the myth of Pluto is that he wore a helmet that made him invisible. So, you know, the manipulation or the control around this influence is perhaps behind the scenes or from people that we don't even know. So it's going to be very interesting to see the changes and the new beginnings that come about with these eclipses. And of course, the solar eclipse is a supercharged new moon. And every month on the show, you'll hear me talk about new moons. And new moons are always about new beginnings. But of course, before you have a new beginning, you need to have an ending first. Now, the solar eclipse will also be trining Neptune. Neptune is at 16 degrees Pisces. And so that's a good thing because a trine brings ease and harmony, which will sort of counterbalance the opposition to Pluto. And then the solar eclipse will also be forming a wide trine to Jupiter in Scorpio. So throughout, especially the first half of July, we've got Jupiter and Neptune forming a trine, and then of course the involvement of the Sun. So July is a good month for the water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, or anybody that has planets in water signs. So with this solar eclipse, because it's in Cancer, the energy around the solar eclipse is it's like because it's in Cancer, it will make us confront our ideas of who are our people, and it doesn't matter if it's from our family of origin or our cultural background or our nationality. It's like we want to know who our clan is, who is important to us. And if there are any people in your life at this time that are not really, if they're not working out for you, or you're not really getting on with people, they're taking more than they're giving, this might be a time where we can cut the ties or let people or situations go that are no longer working for us. So with this solar eclipse in Cancer, we're called to evaluate who has earned our care, and thus who among them do we swear our protection and give our love. It's a very strong type of energy, and it's all about loyalty. And there's going to be a test of loyalty with the involvement of Pluto. So with the eclipse making an exact opposition to Pluto, what that's going to do is create like an all or nothing compulsion. And that's going to either be to build or to destroy. So it's like the building is the new beginnings with the solar eclipse, and the destroying or the letting go is the involvement of Pluto. So this is also about, because of the involvement, eclipses are always super intense anyway and affect all of us on a global scale, as does Pluto. So this energy with the solar eclipse is about supremacy. It's about power and supremacy and creating lasting order, and it's around authority and our leaders and who are the decision makers that impact all of us. So it's like who do we come from because of this influence of Cancer with this solar eclipse on who do we aspire to be? This country was founded on, it's a melting pot. People from all over the globe come here and, we unite as one. So the energy of Cancer is very patriotic as well. So it's like, some of these effects with this solar eclipse opposing Pluto, we may see shifts in attitude towards others. And even with some people, the desire to purify groups or create alliances based on traditional criteria because of Pluto and Capricorn. So depending on what that means to each of us as individuals. So it's like family is really crucial at this time with this solar eclipse in Cancer opposing Pluto. And who we think of as our family, and who are our bonds, who are we tight with, and who can we lean on if we're in trouble, who would we go to, who would support us. It's all that sort of thing. It's a very intense type of energy. And again, I can't emphasize enough with the opposition to Pluto. Pluto is very much about the clan. It's like the things that we do for our brothers or our sisters, and how far will we go to prove our loyalty. It's that type of influence with this solar eclipse opposing Pluto. But as I said, the good news is that, and that's very intense energy as well, extremely intense. But the good news is that the eclipse will also trine Neptune in Pisces, as well as Jupiter in Scorpio. So Jupiter in Scorpio, that's been going on since October 2017, and Jupiter in Scorpio is all about shining the light, revealing the truth. Jupiter in Scorpio is very instinctive. It draws people in, and it evaluates them on the quality of their character. And then on the other hand, you've got Neptune in Pisces, which dissolves borders and boundaries, and, it seeks the universal oneness. And, if you've been reading the news and current affairs lately, current events in the US, it's very much about our borders and, what's been our boundaries and, the compassionate side of this influence with Jupiter and Neptune in the water signs. It's very much about compassion and caring. And what are our boundaries? Are we dissolving our boundaries and borders? And on that note, we will take a short break, so stay tuned.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research and innovations from New Thought teachers, speakers and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Hi, this is John Ondrasik of Five for Fighting, here for RAD, the entertainment industry's voice for road safety. You know, style is a personal thing, and your lifestyle is your business. But if you take it on the road, it becomes everybody's business. So please, plan ahead, designate before you celebrate. Friends, don't let friends drive drunk.
A public service announcement brought to you by RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I am your host and astrologer Kelly Fox, talking about the planets this month, and that's July. I think I heard somebody today think that we were still in June, which is sort of understandable because time is flying by so fast. So we are already in July, and big month. July and August, two really big months, astrologically speaking. So in July we have two eclipses. We've got a solar eclipse, which I was just talking about before the break. That's occurring on July 11th, and then we have a lunar eclipse on July 27th. So this is really big news in the astrological world because the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse are both connecting to other planets in a harmonious and not so harmonious way. So that's the big news of the month. We also have yet another Mercury retrograde. That's not occurring until July 25th. That's happening in Leo. So that could be a little bit of a struggle, where people want to dig their heels in for their own opinions, when really what is needed during this Mercury retrograde that's coming up at the end of the month is compromise. So just before the break, I was talking about the solar eclipse in Cancer, and it's huge news. It's a huge influence, very intense. The sun and moon are connecting or sitting next to each other in the zodiac, both in Cancer, and both are opposite Pluto. Now, Pluto is the planet of change and transformation. Solar eclipses are all about new beginnings, and sometimes the new beginnings are beginnings that we don't necessarily choose, and especially with the involvement of Pluto, it's like things are out of our control. And in some ways, it's better to sort of embrace the new direction that many of us will be facing. And the thing is, because the solar eclipse is in Cancer, it's all about blood is thicker than water. It's all about finding who shares our proverbial blood, who is it that is our clan, because we might be needing the support, or others might be needing our support. But it's like, who do we consider our family, our country, our community, whatever that may be. So this is a very and because of the trine from Jupiter and Neptune, it's all about helping others who we consider our family. Now, the lunar eclipse, that's occurring on Friday, July 27th, and that's happening at 4 degrees, or actually nearly 5 degrees Aquarius. It also involves Mars and Uranus. So this is another yikes. Oh, geez, what is happening? Now, remember back May 15th, we had both Mars and Uranus changing signs. Mars moved into Aquarius and Uranus moved into Taurus, and immediately they were clashing in the sky. So they're going to continue this duking it out with their boxing gloves. But what makes this really intense is that there's a lunar eclipse. The lunar eclipse will be actually forming a T-square or actually I should say Uranus will be forming a T-square to this lunar eclipse on July 27th. If you are a fixed sign or have any planets in fixed signs, and that's Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, I'm talking to you, especially if you were born early in the fixed sign, I'm especially talking to you. So this is the second lunar eclipse of 2018, and it will be conjunct Mars retrograde, because remember on last week's show, I was talking all about Mars turning retrograde. And this lunar eclipse will be forming a square to Uranus in Taurus. So this is really intense. So not only do we have this super intense solar eclipse on July 12th, we have another super duper intense lunar eclipse on July 27th. So there's a lot going on this month for all of us. So it's going to be very interesting to see what plays out July and August with these really heavy and intense planetary energies. So, the lunar eclipse in Aquarius means that the sun and moon are opposite each other with the earth in the middle. So this will be a conflict between self-expression and the collective. It's sort of like who we are as individuals versus who we are as a group, a community or our country or whatever it may be. So, there might be more emphasis, though, on the collective, so what's good for all humanity rather than the individual. And because this lunar eclipse is in Aquarius, it's very detached, it's progressive, it's contrarian, it's future and technology minded. So it's like, in some ways, it might help us detach from our personal dramas. But on the other hand, the sun will be in Leo, and Leo is the sign of drama. So, the lunar eclipse in Aquarius, it will remind us that we're just one of 7 billion people here on this earth, and that we are our brother's keepers. No one is an island, and the Aquarius moon, this Aquarius lunar eclipse moon, has a deep fear of all human categories since they're social constructs. So Aquarius is about breaking barriers and, the tipping point. So the Aquarius lunar eclipse will arouse a gut instinct to rebel from tradition. And it's like we're going to be seeking progressive and technological answers to humanity's problems. So it's going to be very interesting. Yes, definitely challenging for many of us. But it's time to take a step forward into the future with this type of energy. So, of course, the lunar eclipse and the lunar eclipses are never without drama, but this one will be conjuncting or next to a Mars retrograde. So I'm just trying to break that down and thinking, I just can't even imagine really, but, when this Mars retrograde, and I'm emphasizing retrograde because Mars retrograde, Mars is typically the planet of action and assertion. It's the brave warrior, but when it's retrograde, it's like the energy then becomes internal. So be careful of like implosions and impatience. The energies of Mars sort of get amplified when it's retrograde, and we need to be careful not only not to turn it out on everyone else, but not to turn it inwards on ourselves. So when Mars retrograde comes together with this very intense lunar eclipse, together this will make an emotionally explosive energy. It's like it'll be raw and immature. It creates this intense urgency. So there's going to be something at that time that really, really needs to get done, and it affects all of us on a global scale, or a lot of us, not just the individual. This aspect or this influence could also rouse more infighting over ideals and philosophies. With perhaps people thinking that the ends justifies the means. Because they're getting what they want and what they think is best. But of course, because Mars is retrograde, it won't be done directly, but perhaps maybe in a roundabout way. And just remember, back at the solar eclipse on the 12th, it's all about things that are hidden, because of the involvement of Pluto. So because Mars is retrograde connecting into the lunar eclipse on the 27th, things might be done in a roundabout or indirect way. Now, as I mentioned before, this lunar eclipse is not only with the moon sitting with or conjunct this Mars retrograde, but the lunar eclipse is also forming a square to Uranus. And Uranus moved into Taurus May 15th, where it will be for the next 7 years. So the lunar eclipse squaring Uranus, meaning that matters of the heart, emotions and gut reactions are subject to spontaneous and even explosive changes. And that's particularly when it comes to our values and what we own, our possessions, our self-worth, who we think we are. That's what this is all about, this eclipse, because of it's forming this square to Uranus. And Uranus is all about the unexpected, but because it's in Taurus, it's all about our values and our property and our self-worth. So Uranus in Taurus changes our attitudes about what we value and what we think represents traditional values. And then you've got Mars retrograde in Aquarius, which is all about the future. And Uranus in Taurus, Uranus is about the future as well, but Taurus is definitely about traditional values or conservative approaches. So there's definitely going to be tension with both eclipses, but this Aquarian lunar eclipse, it might not value traditions over human beings and only really finds value in what serves a progressive purpose. So it's going to be interesting because Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, and of course Mars is retrograde in Aquarius. It's sort of like it's all connected, but it's all at odds. All this planetary energy is all at odds with each other. So it's like everything else must be destroyed or tossed aside with the solar eclipse, with the involvement of Pluto as well. So it's like, so whose values are best for all humanity? So, the lunar eclipse is never objective, even when it's in Aquarius. So this is a global lunar eclipse in very serious times. Because it reminds people that even our needs and fears can be the inspiration for manifesting universal good. But before that happens, though, we have to really go through a crisis of some sort. And then, we realize that, with Aquarius is the equalizer, and the Aquarius lunar eclipse, Mars retrograde in Aquarius, it rouses the desire to share knowledge with others and to incorporate all people in a struggle against regression with that Mars retrograde. So the lunar eclipse is a call to let the mind do the thinking rather than the heart. But that said, these eclipses, it's all about the moon, and moon is all about emotion. So there's a very convoluted, sort of conflicting friction, a lot of tension with these, just with the eclipses in July. Now, on July 10th, we've got Jupiter turning direct in Scorpio. Finally. And Jupiter is the planet of luck and good fortune. It expands whatever it touches. It's a planet that we want to have on our side. If you're a Scorpio, this is great news for you because Jupiter is in Scorpio. It's been retrograde for a few months. But finally, all you Scorpios or people with planets in Scorpio can all move forward knowing that Jupiter is turning direct next week and will be turning direct in Scorpio. So it's like the sign of Scorpio, it doesn't just expand, which it will when it's coupled up with Jupiter, but it goes very deep. Scorpio is a very intense, mysterious, magnetic sign. It's ambition. It will do whatever it takes to get what it wants. And when it's in Jupiter, even more so. So it's like desire is shaped and focused and very sharp when Jupiter turns direct in Scorpio July 10th. It will expand very deeply, very widely. So if you think of Scorpio like thunder, Jupiter in Scorpio is like a hurricane. So it doesn't just probe, it will penetrate through anything. And it won't just have desire, it will lust obsessively. And if you put that energy with these eclipses in July, now you can sort of start to understand what I'm talking about with July and, of course, August being super intense months. And typically Jupiter in Scorpio, as I said, Jupiter moved into Scorpio October 2017. We had the hashtag #MeToo movement come about at that time. So, Jupiter in Scorpio, scandal that even started before Jupiter entered Scorpio will be revealed. So it's like people might be taking advantage of the goodwill and weakness of others, especially political or even investment types of scandals, because Scorpio is one of the signs of money. So Jupiter in Scorpio, Jupiter turning direct July 10th, it's about discovering what has been hidden, especially because it's been retrograde. So it's about investigation and getting to the bottom of something or finding out the truth. Seeing what other people miss, like taking advantage of the situation, not in a negative way, but just like seeing what other people miss or what other people might overlook. It's like some people might want to strike out on their own at this time when Jupiter turns direct in Scorpio. And, of course, with the solar eclipse, it's all about new beginnings. It's a time of self-discovery. And it's actually a lot of people will be sort of moving toward the more mystic or esoteric sides of life, trying to find the answers or things that have been hidden. Things might come about or be revealed at that time when Jupiter turns direct in Scorpio. People want to be intimate and get very close and really sort of break down the barriers or the borders, as I mentioned before. And also Mercury turning retrograde, there's a whole show on that I'm going to do. That will be the week of July 23rd, not a whole show because, of course, the lunar eclipse is happening at that time as well. But I will talk more about the details of Mercury turning retrograde, and that's going to happen July 25th, so you'll have to tune in to the show that week. We're going to take a short break, so stay tuned for your sign forecast.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Looking for inspiration?
Want to be inspired?
Not sure where to go?
Find Mark and Kim every Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Inspired Living.
Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual.
Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
This is a test to find out if you know it all when it comes to children. Name one of the leading killers of U.S. children age 1 to 13. What's the best way to protect children in a car crash? At what age and size should a child start using a booster seat?
Don't assume you know it all when it comes to car seats for your child. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat and know for sure. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I am your host and astrologer Kelly Fox, talking about the planets in July. And we have a really intense month coming up. We've got 2 eclipses, solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, Jupiter turning direct, and Venus moving into Virgo, which I addressed at the very beginning of the show. And, of course, to top it all off, we have a Mercury retrograde. And there you have it. So I'm going to go through each of the signs. I'm going to give each of the signs their forecast for July and what to expect. So if you're an Aries, so this is interesting because Chiron, which is the planetoid, it's the wounded healer. It's our own experiences. Through our own experiences, we can help other people. It's turning retrograde in your sign. So this is important to think about past situations where maybe help hasn't been forthcoming. And so it's like, what can you do this month to ensure that you treat others better than you yourself have been treated in the past? That's going to be really important. And around July 7th, watch out for a tendency to put yourself last. Remember that you can't be strong for others unless you are strong in yourself. Now, yours is the sign of the warrior, the fearless warrior. So when Venus changes sign July 9th, look into complementary therapies to get your well-being back on track. Now, the partial solar eclipse on July 12th is focused on your family and domestic arrangements. So it's not the best month to try anything radically different around home and family. Think through it instead of just sort of like charging ahead and rushing into something. And then, of course, we've got Venus opposite Neptune the second half of the month. And so be practical and try and be realistic this month. As much as we'd like to sort of fantasize into what we would like, it's more important this month to really focus on what's in front of you and deal with it. And be careful on the 27th because not just the lunar eclipse, but we've got a sun opposite Mars, and Mars is your ruler, and it's currently retrograde. So this is really not the best time to sort of charge ahead and start new things and set the world ablaze. This is more like taking one step at a time, and really Mars, your ruler, because it's retrograde, it's forcing you to have patience and perseverance. Taurus. So this month, it seems that started with you in quite an introspective mood, that, love and friendship do mix well together. And so it pays to mix and mingle because of this really nice grand water trine this week. So it's like spread your social wings, and you never know who you might meet. And Venus on the 9th will arrive in your dating and flirting zone. So if you're single, definitely get out there and mingle. And if you're coupled, keep it strong through communication, especially around the 12th of the solar eclipse. It's vital that you keep talking. Because this solar eclipse may bring misunderstandings. So don't make assumptions about what someone else is saying. And then at the end of July, you're more in a protective mode when it comes to family and money. Just be careful of any sort of gambling at the end of the month. And with Mercury turning retrograde in your family zone, there could be some family tension. So, especially around the eclipses as well. So it's important just, keep your cool and be open to any sort of change, which is not always easy for you, Taurus. If you're a Gemini, the month started out really well, possibly good news about your finances. And with the grand water trine this week, it might suggest that there's some good fortune with money matters. And perhaps some fresh work opportunities. But, of course, watch out for the details. Something which seems too good to be true probably is. And the solar eclipse on July 12th will highlight your money zone. So just be aware of that, because remember there's that opposition from Pluto. Someone else might be pulling the strings around some sort of financial opportunity. But, a financial shock could actually be a blessing in disguise. Or, a financial boost might have some sort of downside. So take a sensible approach. And then on July 9th, Venus moves into your family zone. And so mid-month is the ideal time to make peace with those family members that we all seem to have, and then maybe sign a truce or avoid the argument in the first place would be a good thing to do. And then Mercury, which is your ruling planet, turns retrograde in your communication zone on July 25th. So this could definitely lead to some misunderstandings in a social situation. So it's really, really important that you don't make assumptions and, your communication is super clear. Yours is one of the signs of communication and the intellect, so it shouldn't be too difficult. Cancer the crab. So Cancer the crab, this is interesting for you because there is a solar eclipse in your sign. So there's many new opportunities for self-improvement for Cancer. And but just be aware, though, that Chiron does turn retrograde in your career zone, which should enable you to think dispassionately about your working life and how you can best fulfill your potential. So it's important this month for you, Cancer, to look for your calling. It's there because of that solar eclipse in your sign, and it highlights how you're growing. Your creativity is starting to shine, and there's a lot of development there as well for, just how you think of yourself. So it's all about fresh starts, new beginnings. But, again, because of the difficult opposition from Pluto, someone else may be pulling the strings. So this is not about changing simply to please someone else. This needs to be done for you, Cancer. And then Leo, you might find yourself on a spiritual quest as July unfolds. And don't be afraid to explore and seek answers. So, with this Chiron retrograde, it's leading you to uncharted territory in this regard, which is all part of your own personal growth. Venus moves into your values zone, and this pushes you to discover more about who you are and what really matters to you. And with the solar eclipse on July 12th, it's an opportunity for you for a fresh start in your beliefs and principles. And then mid-month for you, Leo, it's a period of reflection. Home is definitely where the heart is. You'll feel safe, warm, loved, and at peace. And, maybe cut back a bit on the social events. It's really about sort of meditation and taking care of yourself and tuning into the higher source. And, of course, at the end of the month, Mercury will be turning retrograde in your sign, and that's on July 25th. So there might be some struggle there to communicate openly, but you'll get through it. And just know that the lunar eclipse will also involve your sign. And at that same time, the sun will square up to Uranus in your ambitions or career zone. So be careful not to become your own worst enemy, and don't let your ego get in the way, I guess would be my best tip. Virgo, so it's a very busy July for all of us, and for you in particular, July will bring many opportunities for making progress. But you need to understand what your objectives are. You need to get very clear about that, where you're going, what you want. It's time to create a better plan rather than just sort of wandering aimlessly throughout life. This will be helped this week, actually, with this grand water trine. So it's really good to sort of tune in to your intuition and ask for help and support, not just from a higher source, but from friends and family. And then, of course, Venus, love planet Venus, arrives in your sign, Virgo, on July 9th. This will boost your self-esteem. And then, of course, the solar eclipse is another prod in the right direction. So it's important not to lose track of details as you start to create some action. So this is like a time, the end of the month might be a little bit challenging, and that's for all of us, not just for Virgo. So it's like it's time to sort of take a little bit of time out for yourself at the end of the month, especially when Mercury, your ruling planet, turns retrograde on the 25th. And then, of course, the lunar eclipse affecting all of us reminds you that despite your current material and practical success, it's really important to take care of your spiritual self as well. Libra, well, you're ready to rock and roll this month because July is packed with positive energy for your sign. Lucky you. It all kicks off really well on the 4th when Chiron turns retrograde in your love zone. So you and your sweetheart may discover that you're rediscovering your karmic love links, or perhaps bringing a soulmate into your orbit if you're single. And at work, maybe your career ambitions are getting a boost. This grand water trine this week is really nice for everyone, but especially for you in your work life, Libra. And then, of course, the solar eclipse on July 12th, it's a good time to consolidate your progress at work and, sort of reach out to others who have helped you on the way so you can return the favor. This is a time for you for gratitude and appreciation. And then, of course, later in July, the focus shifts more towards friendships in your social life. And then, of course, maybe paying a debt around the Mercury retrograde on the 25th. So settle up any debts at the end of July. And then pay attention to your social relationship as the month ends, because things could come to a head on the lunar eclipse July 27th. Scorpio, for you, July's energies are all about spreading your wings. Lucky you. That's because Jupiter, planet of luck and good fortune, turns direct in your sign. Also this week, we've got this grand water trine. Of course, Scorpio is a water sign. This is fantastic news for you. And then you've got Venus, planet of love, arriving in your social zone on July 9th. So this is a fantastic time to really connect with other people, reach out to friends or community. And then, of course, a little bit challenging when Mercury turns retrograde in your career zone. So be very clear with communication. And then, of course, we've got not just the lunar eclipse, but the sun opposite Mars. Suggesting that just be careful around family situations and dramas. Sagittarius, it's interesting month for you because Chiron turns retrograde this week, and so you may struggle with your feelings about a previous relationship, which should have been perfect but wasn't. Okay, remember what I said at the beginning of the show? No such thing. And then, of course, the solar eclipse on July 12th will help you say what needs to be said and lay the ghost to rest once and for all from anything that's been sort of hanging around from the past. You don't have to do this alone. Ask for help if need be. And, of course, Jupiter will be turning direct in your spiritual zone mid-month, so it's important that you seek your own truth, meditate, read and listen to your dreams. And then, of course, like Mercury turning retrograde in your philosophy zone on July 25th, you may find that your loved ones and friends struggle with your new views because yours is the sign of philosophy. And then, of course, July 27th is really big. Lots of lunar eclipse, but lots of other planetary activity. So just sort of cool your jets, keep you cool, and really tune in to look at the situation from a higher point of view. If you're a Capricorn, so what's coming for you this month is that with this very positive water trine this week, grand water trine, it indicates that friends and family and other loved ones are willing to lean on you for your help or vice versa. So it's like, and if you're single, it's time for a fresh start. Venus, planet of love, moves into your philosophy zone on the 9th. So if there's any sort of relationship issues with friends, your partner, family, it's a time to start new beginnings, especially with the solar eclipse on the 12th. It's a time for sort of face a new direction. And then at the end of July, there could be some hot and spicy aspects for you. Very passionate when it comes to relationships. Be careful of Mercury retrograde on the 25th, and be sure to keep lines of communication open. If you're an Aquarian, it definitely pays to get organized this month. So especially if you're ambitious. So this is important. This is going to be helped by this grand water trine this week. Get your finances in order. And then, of course, on July 9th, love planet Venus moves into your strategy zone. So it's a good time to think how you can use your charm to influence people. And then, of course, July 12th, we've got the solar eclipse, which might bring some really good work-related news. And then later in the month, be careful with your partnership because Mercury turns retrograde in your romance zone. So you need to be extra sure to communicate very clearly with your sweetheart. And then, of course, July 27th, the lunar eclipse in your own sign does coincide with that potent Sun-Mars opposition. So tempers may flare around the end of the month, but stand your ground within a relationship. But remember, you are stronger together as a team. And finally, Pisces, July's energies are brave and bold for you. And think about moving beyond your comfort zone. So this week, first week of July, we've got an amazing grand water trine, which is fantastic news for you, Pisces, as well as the other water signs. And this is time to really, it'll bring new leaps of faith. Your self-confidence will be huge with this influence. It's a great month for your love life too, because on July 9th, Venus, planet of love, moves into your love zone. So if you are coupled, this is a wonderful month to really be connected to your partner. If you're single, you never know. And then on July 12th, we've got that solar eclipse. That is falling in your dating zone. So there's a lot of excitement in the love department for you this month, Pisces. But then, of course, watch out, Mercury retrograde. So watch out for everybody, July 25th. And it's could be quite intense. It's okay to ask for help. You're always giving help, but it is okay to ask for help as well. And then, of course, the lunar eclipse on July 27th. This occurs in your spiritual zone. So it's really important at the end of the month around this eclipse that you take heed and take some time out and rest and seek inner peace. And there you have it. That's it from me. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox. This is the Astrology Show. Thank you for joining me, and be sure to tune in next week.